The hospital ceiling swam above me, fluorescent lights bending under the haze of morphine. My chest burned with every shallow breath, ribs fractured, legs mangled, doctors whispering about the need for immediate surgery. The nurse leaned over me, her voice sharp with urgency. "We need a guardian's consent." I called my parents first. My mother let the phone ring unanswered. My father's reply was a text. "Can't this wait? We're busy." Busy. Busy. While their son lay bleeding on a gurney. The phone slipped from my hand, but no tears came. Not then. Instead, I asked the nurse to call my grandfather. He was there within the hour. His signature saved me. His presence anchored me. And beneath those harsh hospital lights, I understood something with crystal clarity. My parents had abandoned the right to call themselves mine. They had never truly hidden what I was to them, an inconvenience. Their parenting had been bare minimum, quick to point out my flaws, slow to acknowledge any worth. And still, like a fool, I clung to hope. I thought if I excelled enough, worked hard enough, they'd notice. Straight A's, scholarships, late night studying while they entertained guests with cocktails in hand. They never came to a recital. Never asked about my deadlines. But Grandpa did. He clapped too loud from the back row, grinning with unshaken pride. I had once mistaken my parents' indifference for distance. The truth was harsher. It was never distance. It was choice. The accident stripped away any last illusion. Tires screeched, metal twisted, my car folded against the guardrail. As I drifted in and out of consciousness, I thought surely this would wake them. Surely this would bring them running. But their answer came in 2 words, busy. They didn't even ask if I would survive. It wasn't neglect anymore. It was betrayal. While I healed, their silence thundered louder than any apology ever could. When I was discharged, Grandpa drove me home. His hands, scarred, veined, steady, gripped the steering wheel. He didn't fill the car with empty words. Just glanced at me with the kind of wisdom that didn't need explaining. I didn't tell him my plan, not yet. But it had already taken root. Loyalty deserves reward. Betrayal deserves consequence. And I had leverage. The family trust, the land, the estate my parents flaunted as theirs, it was still under Grandpa's name. They assumed it would pass to them automatically. They assumed wrong. I waited in silence that first week, letting them believe nothing had changed. Let them sip wine, book parties, boast about futures they thought secured. Meanwhile, I went to Grandpa. I laid out the facts, plain and steady. The unanswered call, the text, their absence when my life balanced on a knife's edge. He listened, jaw tight, hands clasped. Then he asked only one question. "And who was there for you?" I met his gaze. "You." 3 weeks later, the papers were ready. His lawyer had prepared them carefully. The trust rewritten, assets redirected, inheritance reassigned. Everything my parents thought guaranteed was now mine. I carried the envelope into their living room. They barely looked up, wine glasses in hand. My mother's first words weren't concern, weren't "how are you?" but a cold remark, "You're walking better." Finally. I set the documents on the table. "Read." My father frowned, unfolded them. His eyes froze halfway down the page. My mother leaned in, color draining as she reread line after line. At last, my father whispered, voice cracking. He wouldn't. I cut him off, calm and final. He did. The silence that followed tasted sweet. The house, the land, the accounts, all beyond their reach now. My mother's hand shook around her glass. "After everything we've done." I laughed, sharp and bitter. "Exactly. After everything you've done." I left them sitting in that silence, drowning in the collapse of their illusion. Their empire melted away like sugar in water. Now, when I sit on the porch of the land that is legally mine, Grandpa beside me, I feel no pity. Only peace. My parents once told me my life could wait. Now, they'll spend the rest of theirs waiting, for wealth, comfort, and legacy that will never return to them. Once, I ached for their approval. Now I know the truth, indifference cuts deeper than hatred. When I signed those papers, 3 weeks after the crash, I didn't just secure my own future. I ended theirs.